representing the ED, Dr. O.O. Oyedele. Can we please come by again? Then we have in our midst some members of the IMCs, and we have seated in our midst this morning Dr. Mrs. O.O. Idowu, Director of Research. And we also have seated in our midst this morning Dr. Mrs. O. Adebisi Adelani from the Extension Department. And we also have in our midst this morning Dr. Mrs. M.V. Davids. And we also have seated honorably in our midst this morning Dr. I.B. Adeoye, Director of Research, HOD Farming System and Extension. We also have seated in our midst this morning Dr. L.B. Oladide Taiwo, Director of Research. We also have in our midst this morning Dr. Mrs. M.A. Badmos, Director of Research. And we also have in our midst Dr. A.G. Adebayo. Can we please clap them? Thank you. We also have in our midst this morning Dr. B.O. Ibitoye. Apologies. Then we have in our midst this morning Dr. O.A. Shokalu. She's not here, so apologies. We have in our midst this morning Dr. Mrs. I.O. Amal, Assistant Director of Research, Air Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. We also have in our midst this morning We also have in our midst this morning Dr. Mrs. V.A. Adedipe Eshie. Apologies, please. Apologies. Okay, we have in our midst, my apologies again, sir, Dr. H.N. Ibikwe. Can you please come? Thank you for coming, sir. And we also have some special guests in our midst this morning. We have from the Department of Industrial and Production Engineering, Dr. Engineer Kolawole. Thank you for coming, sir. Apologies again. I hope my salary will not be deducted. We also have in our midst, honorably seated, Dr. Mrs. M.T. Oladujoye. Okay, they say that behind a successful woman, there is a man. We have the husband of the celebrant of today in our midst, very Reverend Dr. Abiodun Ogunjimi. And we also have the children of the celebrant, Foluto and Folufe. You're welcome. So, the chairperson of today's seminar is our very own Dr. Mrs. M.A. Badmos. Can you please come and sit beside me? Thank you. And to take the citation of today's celebrant is Mrs. A.O. Ogunkayede. And the rapporteur of today's seminar is Mr. Oji Awoshika. Right now, I'm going to hand over to the chairperson of today's seminar for the opening remarks. Apologies, please, ma'am. The celebrants, please can you come and sit? Yeah. Thank you. Come on the floor.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, house. Good morning. Other members of the INC and all members of staff. I feel privileged and honored to chair today's seminar of a sister, more or less. You're more of a sister than staff, and because we have come a long way. And so, is that the place you're supposed to be? Oh, here? All right, okay. Yes, I thank the MC of the occasion for the introduction. And I think we'll call on the rapporteur, no, the citation reader to come do a job before the seminar starts properly. Thank you.
Good morning, Lady, distinguished IMC member and respected colleagues. It's my honor to introduce today's presenter to us this morning, Engineer Temitope Olukumi Ogunjimi. Engineer Temitope Olukumi Ogunjimi is an industrial engineer. She was born about 5 decades ago. She had her early education at St. Augustine Catholic Primary School, Ijebu-Ode, and her secondary school education at Our Lady of Apostle Secondary School, Ijebu-Ode, in 1992. She's an indigene of Ijebu-Ode in Ogun State. And we're so on my life. She obtained a bachelor's degree in industrial and production engineering from the University of Ibadan in 2021, master's degree in business administration from the University of Lagos in 2009, and another master's degree in industrial and production engineering from the University of Ibadan in 2015, respectively. She's also a professional in planning, monitoring, and evaluation, with specialty on agricultural research projects. Our professional working career spans more than a decade in Nigeria, 3 years in the private sector, 16 years at the National Horticultural Research Institute, NIOT, Nigeria. She was employed as a planning officer 1 in NIOT in January 2009. She rose through the ranks to become chief planning officer in 2022. Let's dance together. She played a vital role in the development of results-based monitoring and evaluation system of NIOT in 2010, development of organizational performance assessment system in 2012. Our experts in monitoring and evaluation of projects has been demonstrated considerably in our being assigned to choose projects such as horticultural academic for youth and many other projects. Our responsibilities and duties include productivity assessment of the organizational outputs, evaluation of organizational performance outputs, organizational budget preparation and performance measurements, and monitoring and evaluation institutional projects to ensure effective implementation. Monitoring officer at the Institute Capacity Building Program on Horticultural Value Chain on Tomato and Ginger Value Addiction held at Conference Hall, Niger State in 2021. Monitoring officer at the Horticultural Training for Unemployed Youths and Women on Ginger Value Addition at 2021. Monitoring officer at the Geopolitical Training for Farmers on Plantain through Banana Propagation Techniques in Delta State in 2022. Monitoring officer, Horticultural Academy for Youth, National Horticultural Research Institute, 2023 to date. Monitoring Officer, NIOS to Topan Collaborative Project on Tomato Production in Southwest Nigeria in 2025. Other administratives to ad hoc staff duties in the Institute include Treasurer, NIOS Staff CICS 2025, Member, NIOS Procurement Planning Committee in 2022, Member of Interview Panel Junior Staff Promotion Exercise in 2022. Short courses and stroke workshop attended. Designing and implementing monitoring and evaluation system in 2022. Planning for monitoring and evaluation at the Philanthropy University in 2029. Monitoring and evaluation in project management at Agricultural and Rural Management Training Institute, Ilorin, Kwara State in 2017. Research proposal written workshop held at Center for Management Development, Shankisha, Lagos in 2012. In 2015, engineer Temitayo Ogunjimi became a recipient of the Netherlands Award. In 2015, she also had enriched her experts through online training on effective listening in 2024, IT communication in 2024, professional soft skill in 2024, generative essential and artificial intelligence by Microsoft in 2025. Our contributions to the society include knowledge transfer on production practice on Telferia Residential, that's UGU, to the Women Fellowship of the Category of Blessing in 2025. Seminar presented on ethical considerations and commitment to sustainability in industrial engineering at the Industrial Engineer Student Association Conference held in 2023. Projects on determining the safe hardback mass for students in secondary school in Ibadan in 2015. Project on facility layout design, the design of a local pharmaceutical company which demonstrated a practical way of increasing productivity and improving the profits of the company through the facility redesigning in 2011. Engineer Temitope is a corporate member of Council for the Regulation. Temitayo, is a corporate member of the Council for the Regulations of Engineering in Nigeria. March 2021. The Nigeria Society of Engineers in 2020, and also the Nigeria Institute of Management in 2023. Let's dance together for her. Our strengths include analytical and conceptual thinking, advanced computer proficiency, team loyalty and organizational awareness, deep commitment to evidence-based planning and institutional accountability. In conclusion, she has been described as a result-oriented person, high performance, goal-driven individual. She is happily married to a very loving husband, the very Reverend Dr. Abiodun Ogunjimi, and the family is blessed with wonderful children.
We shall really appreciate our presenter. Engineer, please come over. Presenter will be talking to us about what she has been described to be doing, has been doing since she joined the institute, and what she knows how to do it. She has You have 30 minutes, 40 minutes max implementation.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning, CEO NIOT, every represented by Dr. Owo Oyedele. Good morning, NIOT family. Today, we'll be talking about the logical framework, a viable tool in planning, monitoring, and evaluation for effective tracking of institutional projects. We'll be going through the introduction, the concepts and definition of keywords, the categories of tools. We'll be looking through the logical framework sample, the common mistakes we encounter during in carrying out our duties, and the conclusion. Introduction. Planning, monitoring, and evaluation constitute a system that is significant in management decision making. It starts with planning. We plan before we go to monitor, and then we monitor before we evaluate. Then evaluation feeds planning, and like that we have a circle. Planning. What does planning entails? Planning is a critical stage in the cycle. Why do I say it's a critical stage? It is the design stage of the project where analytical thinking takes place. The needs assessment, the needs of the farmers, the needs and the problems of the farmers are identified by the institutes. And the institutes, the needs and the institutes look inwards to see how they can provide solution to the needs and the problems of the farmers. And so they set out goals on what exactly do we want to do, what changes do we want to bring. Then we determine our baseline. We determine the baseline before we start any project. Then we have to work on strategies to develop action plans, which will lead to us having a work plan. The work plan is a schematic representation of all the activities and the time of each activities. Then we will have to plan for our monitoring and evaluation indicators. The monitoring and evaluation indicators are essential to be planned at the beginning of the project. In order to measure the project, in order to measure the essence, all the activities, to ensure that the activities that have been planned for are actually achieved, and if not, in order to know the level, the status of which each activity and the project performs, then we plan for our resources. We plan for the personnel. What type of personnel do we need to come on board for the project? Do we need a pathologist? Do we need an agri-economist? How many of them do we need? Then we plan for resources as materials. Do we need, what are the consumables do we need? What's the quantity? All those ones happens during the planning. Then finally we plan the budget. The budget is the financial plan of the project. All these activities happen within the planning. Then why do we need to plan? Resources are scarce, so we need to optimize the resource. We need to ensure optimal resource utilization. Then when we plan, it helps us to achieve set goals and objectives. We know where we are going, because if we don't have the set goals and objectives, we just, there's a saying that if you don't know where we are going, every way seems to be the way. Then planning helps us to have clear timelines. It provides insight to market dynamics. It helps in budgeting. It reduces the likelihood of failure. There's a saying that if you fail to plan, you already plan to fail. It enhances management practices and it helps in decision making. It also increases productivity, such as the yield. It reduces waste and improves efficiency. So monitoring. What is monitoring? Monitoring is the routine tasks that we carry out. The observation, the recording, the collecting of data, information, and checking those data that we have collected to see how our activities are proceeding. And we look at it, what is the aspect of those activities that need to be corrected? It's a routine collection of data. Then, in monitoring, we have to communicate our results to the researchers, to the management committee, and also to the supervisory agencies through our director of executive, through the directives of the executive director. We store information gathered for use in evaluation. So monitoring helps us to take stock of the status of the project and whether the project is on target to achieve project outcomes. That is it in a schematic diagram. Evaluation on its own is the objective assessment of an ongoing or completed project, program, or policy. We have 3 types of evaluation. The ex-ante evaluation, this is an assessment of the project at the start of the project to ensure does the project worth funding. Then we have the mid-term evaluation, which is the assessment of the project during implementation of the project. Then we have the ex-post evaluation, the assessment of its results. The aim and purpose of this is to determine the relevance, the fulfillment of objectives, the efficiency and effectiveness of our project, the overall goal, and how sustainable the project is. And this gives us a circle. Once we fund our project, we implement, and then we monitor. From our monitoring, we get information that is used that we analyze. The result of our analysis becomes a learning. It becomes information that it gives planning, learning. We learn from our results in order to better off another project that we have. And that makes the research project management stick. Now, what are those concepts and definitions that we have in this presentation? Number 1, we have a project. What is a project? Project is a temporary endeavor. It is not a permanent endeavor. It is designed to produce a unique product or service or result with a defined beginning. The beginning must be defined and the end also. There must be a start time and an end time. It's undertaken to meet specified goals and objectives and to bring about beneficial change or added value to the environment. Institutional projects. For the purpose of this presentation, I define institutional projects as capital projects sponsored by the federal government of Nigeria to achieve the mandates of our institutes for the benefit of the public. Institutional projects, we have budget lines. We categorize them into research projects, infrastructures, training, procurement, and in-house. We cannot spend the money for infrastructure on training. So they have their own budget line in their Appropriation Act. Then, institutional projects are overseen by supervisory bodies like the Federal Ministry of Agric and Food and Security, Agric Research Council of Nigeria, Federal Ministry of Budget and National Planning, and Budget Office of the Federation to ensure compliance and accountability to the President's renewed hope agenda for the agricultural sector. These are bodies that oversee our work as an institute, and then they measure our performance. So, and our performance relates to budgets. If you perform well, it relates to a better budget. And if we don't have a good performance, then our budgets might be also affected. What makes our performance good? So in reporting, we report the power of reporting institutional projects. Now, the power of monitoring and evaluation is evident through smart reporting. If you don't have a smart report, then it will affect also our budget. Now, our report must be smart. What do I mean by smart? It has to be specific. It must be precise and relate to that change that we seek to have. And then it must be measurable, it must be quantifiable. At least it must have a measurable progress. It must be achievable. It should be realistic within the available resources and the constraints. And then it must be relevant in the sense that it must align with the objectives that we have considered to achieve. It must be time-bound too. It must be within the specific time period that we want, that will influence many management decisions. We cannot we cannot give a report after so many things, occurrences have happened. The report must be time-bound. Now, tools, what is tools? What do we mean by it? Tools are instruments that you use to accomplish specific tasks. As a nurse, you have your tool. As an engineer, we have our tools. So tools, anything that you use to accomplish a task, to be able to achieve your purpose, we call it is a tool. For monitoring and evaluation, our tools are used for tracking progress, assessing outcomes, to make data-driven decisions in projects and programs activities. We have categories of tools for effective monitoring. We have the planning tools, the monitoring tools, and the evaluation tools. On the planning tools, we have the logical framework, theory of change, result framework. The data collection tools are monitoring tools, which can include the survey, interview, the data collection apps, and for the evaluation, we have statistics software, Excel, Power BI, BI, and the rest. But today we'll be considering the logical framework, which is a planning tool. The logical framework. Why are we using the logical framework? Logical framework has an advantage, and the advantage is that it defines the logic of the project or program from its activities through the desired changes. Like for example, from the activity to the output to the outcome. It shows the linkage between the activities to the output, to the outcome, and to the goal in a systematic way, that everybody will see the way it is linked to each other in a logical way, thereby providing a systematic monitoring and evaluation system. Then, a logical framework gives clear performance indicators, and we have means of verification are defined from the beginning. It makes it very unique. Then, it has an advantage that it facilitates common understanding and better communication among the parties involved in project execution and parties involved in monitoring. And then it reduces to the BRS, the common errors that we encounter. It's also widely used by many agencies, donors, governments, and governments. The keywords on the logical framework. We have the inputs. Inputs are the financial, human, and material resources required to implement the activities. So when we talk of consumables, all those man, personnel, all those things comes in as inputs. Then activities are the actions that we take, or the operation or the work performed through which inputs are mobilized to produce specific outputs. Activities will turn inputs to outputs. Then our outputs is the product of goods and services which results from an operation on an activity. Outputs are direct results of project activities. Outputs occur within the life of the project. When we talk of output, it is the direct result of your activity. It is different from outcome. Outcome is the change that we hope to achieve at the end of the project, or the program is a medium-term result of an operations output. Take for example, when we want to conduct training on vegetable production, our output will be the training that was conducted. Our outcome will be the skills that was acquired by the participants. Then the goals. These are the change that the project hopes to achieve in the long run, beyond the life of the project. Is the contribution of the project towards a national outlook. For example, the training on vegetable production, the contribution towards the national outlook the goal will be reduction in unemployment. Then the impact is either the positive or the negative, the intended or unintended long-term results produced by activity directly or indirectly. This is the logical framework. It's a 4x4 matrix. It has the vertical framework as well as the horizontal framework. The vertical framework, we have the goal, the purpose, the outputs, and the activities. Whereas the horizontal framework involves narrative, objective, verifiable indicators, means of verifications, and assumptions. Now let's look at the vertical logical framework. Here we consider all the inputs that are necessary to carry out the project. And if there is an input, together with an activity, considering that our assumptions are there. So if there is an input and with the activity, then we will have a product. We will have an output. If we have inputs together with this activity, it will produce this output. And when we have output, if there is output, then there is a purpose for that output. There is a purpose for it. And if there is a purpose, then definitely this purpose will contribute to the national goal. So we see the linkage. For each activity, there must be output. The linkage is there, and how they are related is there. So the horizontal logical framework. The narrative describes the causal logic of the project goals, outcome, output, and activities. The objectively verifiable indicators. This identifies the performance indicators or targets for each of the levels. We have output indicators, we have outcome indicators, we have goal indicators. For all of the levels, we have indicators for them. And that indicators is a measure of how the activities or outputs have been achieved. It's a measure of achievement. It identifies performance. Then how do we know that these achievements have been done? That means the means of verification is the source of the data. The source of data for the performance indicator at each level. Then assumptions will be made from the goal, from the initial stage, at the design stage. These assumptions describe the necessary and sufficient conditions on which the project depends for its success. We must consider the risk that in all things, if all these assumptions are okay, then the results will be known. This is a sample of a logical framework. This is a sample of a logical framework. Now, the project title is Breeding for Heat Tolerance in Tomato. We can see the lifespan is for 4 years. It has a start date, 2021 to 2024. And the total fund, the budget has been provided for, it will be there. Now, these are the activities the project intends to cover. Number one activity says, participatory appraisal of tomato production with farmers, processors, and consumers. How do we know that this activity has been achieved? Then, how do we measure it? The number of stakeholders that have been interacted with will tell us, oh, indeed, if we have the number, we will know that this activity has been done. How do we, the means of verification will be our survey reports. With that, we will know that this activity has been done. Then the second activity, we talked about germplasm assembly, the language and the wide varieties. To measure the germplasm, we must know through the collection of diverse tomato accessions. So if we have the collections, we can measure that this activity has been done. And we also get that through our survey reports. The number 3 activity, we talk about the collection of infected tomato plant samples and soil rhizosphere from selected tomato production. We also use this indicator to know that this activity has been done. Number 4 says screening of assembled germplasm for resistance to bacterial weed disease. Here we will know number of pathogens that have been screened. If we have the number of pathogens that have been screened, it's an evidence that this activity has been carried out, and the means of verification will be our laboratory reports. Likewise, creation of variation, we will look at the hybrid population. What is the hybrid population? It will give us an idea that this activity has been carried out. Then, progeny trials. How many promising progeny have we identified? That is a way to know that when we have output for this indicator, it will show us that this activity also has been carried out. Then the multi-locational trials, how many locations was the multi-locational trials carried out? If you have that, it's an evidence that this activity has been done. The nomination and registration of East Tolerant resistance varieties is how East Tolerant tomato varieties have been developed. All these, if we have these assumptions that, we will have institutional support, we will have sustained funding for breeding activities, we have favorable climates, and then there will be no action by labor union. If all these assumptions are there, then definitely we will have our output. Now, the first output, which says that preferred traits of improved tomato varieties identified, is linked to the first activity. We talked about participatory appraisal of tomato production with farmers, processors, and consumers. So how do we know that? How do we verify this activity? We'll use the stakeholder feedback. When we have the stakeholder feedback, it gives us those preferred traits, and we get it from our means of verification will be our survey reports. And then we know that the output from that first activity is also give us the constraints to tomato production identified. That will, to measure it, we look at the percentage increase of tomato germplasm. Now we'll get all that also from the survey report as a means of verification. Then novel sources of resistant gene to bacterial weed disease among the tomato germplasm identified. We'll get that, we will use this indicator, identify intolerant germplasm. We will use it to measure this. So like that, with all our assumptions that access to diverse germplasm and functional screening facilities are intact. So that is, if we have all these assumptions that, we'll have access to diverse germplasm and functional screening facilities, definitely, then we'll have our outputs, our outcome, which is the purpose of the project. Now, the purpose of the project, as I said, breeding for heat tolerance in tomato. The purpose is this: develop and release heat tolerance tomato variety with at least 5% yield increase and good agronomic traits above the existing variety for Nigerian tomato farmers. How do we know? There must be nomination and release of heat tolerance tomato variety indigenous to Nigerian agroecology with this 5% yield increase above existing variety. So the means of our verification will be our national NBRC documents, approved documents. When we see the approved documents, it shows us that really this activity has been carried out. Or the varietal release certificates is an evidence that these activities have been done. It provides that all these assumptions are in stake. That is, there is efficient adaptation and catalysis of opulent traits and underlying fruit sets under its phase. There is a knowledge of the genetic architecture, both at vegetative and reproductive stages. There is a supportive infrastructure, and there is regulatory and the regulatory bodies operate and approve cycle. So if our outputs are there and these assumptions hold, then we have this. Finally, our goal. Our goal is different from outcome. I said it earlier that it gives a national look. The goal has to talk about our contribution, the contribution of this project to a national goal, which is usually we can compare this to one. But as I have it here, we have increased locally bred tomato varieties production. How do we verify this? Through our production figure or statistic increase by at least 5%. No, how do we measure? We measure with this, our production figure. Then we verify through our report from National Bureau of Statistics. And then another goal, which is a national goal, is enhance Nigeria's agricultural GDP. We can get that from agri-sector performance data, and then National Economic Report, provided that tomato varieties meet stakeholders' needs, provided that tomato consumption remains high, so that the GDP will also be high. Then it improves livelihood of smallholder farmers, commercial growers, and other stakeholders in Nigeria. How do we get that? Through improved farmers' household income by at least 5%. Then we conduct a survey. Through the survey, we will know if the farmer's income has been actually improved. Then reduction in imported seed, by how long we will measure. That means we have a baseline. We compare it with our baseline figure to know has it increased by at least 5%. If not, at least we'll get a calculation of the increase, and that will be our indicators. Then our means of verification will be a report from the Seed Council of Nigeria. With this logical framework, it gives us detailed information, and it has to be done at the beginning of the project, while the project is about to start. So it won't be like monitoring officers will go out and will say, hey, what are we doing? We already have a display, we already have a transparent template of what we want to monitor. The project executors, they know they know what we want to measure. They are aware. The monitoring officers also know what they are looking out for. It's not a matter of, oh, today it is handwritten we have. We are now write and without written, which is not detailed enough. And I've said earlier that our report must be smart, and then our report also relates to budget releases. So it's what we give us. It's what you give us that will help us in our reporting to our supervisory board. So it's essential that we make use of this logical framework from the beginning of every institutional project. It will help our reports. So project performance indicators. As I said, those indicators need to be measurable. They need to be verifiable. We should be able to observe them. They need to be unique and be relevant to the objective of the project. At this junction, I want to take it is noteworthy that research is different from routine production and service activities, which have quantitative outputs and whose operations are standardized. We know that results of research are often difficult to quantify, but nevertheless, we still need to know the measurements, to know how they progress, and how the performance. So we use a PROSI indicator for difficult to quantify projects, outputs, and outcomes. These policy indicators, we have examples there. Just like in a project, in a pest management project, we can have an objective of to reduce pest infestation from 60% to 20%. The 60% will be the baseline before the start of the project. And then we have an expectation, we want to reduce it to 20%. At the end of the day, after the project, we may know whether we actually achieve our aim or not. Then another example is just this one that I've just illustrated, the breeding project, that develop and release intolerant tomato variety with at least 5% yield increase. So at the end of the day, from all our reports, we will know, do we actually attain our expectation? So these indicators must be measurable in quantity, in quality, and in time. We just don't say we have a good output, we have a good yield. No, we must be able to quantify the yield. We must be able to know what exactly is the quantity, and then the quality of it, and it has to be timely. Now, research proposals. Currently, in the department, we make use of researchers' proposals to work. So research proposals is our fundamental source of information for project monitoring. It's the basis for monitoring, it's the basis any monitoring is carried out. But for some years back, we experienced some mistakes and errors using the research proposals. Some of the mistakes are: 1, ambiguity in definition. Project objectives, expected outcomes, most of the times are vaguely stated. And if we don't have enough information, we don't have anything to report. We always come back to you. And anytime you come, you always say, the monitoring spirits are here again. Please supply us with information so that we will have those. It will not be, monitoring spirits will not be monitoring. Oftentimes we have tautology. What do I mean? The project title will be the same as the project objective, will be the same as the project outcome. They will only change the English. So when we want to give our report, it's difficult to know what exactly the project is. We don't know what you people are doing. So we have that as a barrier. Then outputs, outcome, and impact. Oftentimes they are replaced, they are misplaced. You see outputs as outcome for some proposals, which shouldn't be. Then non-submission of proposals. We don't even have submission for proposal for some projects. What are we going to monitor if there is no proposal? So we just go there. We don't know what you are doing. It's what you tell us. Okay, we are doing this at the moment. We also take by we write. It's not good enough. It affects our budget. Then carrying out research on non-approved activity. For those that submitted research proposals, there are some activities that are not approved that we engage in. It shouldn't be. All this should be planned from the beginning. Then indicators for monitoring and ongoing evaluation activities are not appropriately and adequately provided. Oftentimes we don't even have indicators. We just sit down in the office and think, okay, this should be in the indicators on behalf of the scientists. It shouldn't be. Then timelines are not specified. Most times they will say, this activity, 2 months. 2 months. Is the 2 months starting from January and February or June and July? So we should be specific. If it's January to February, not just 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 1 year. No, we want it specified. Then important assumptions that may affect project success are not explicitly spelled out. We don't even consider assumptions at all. Then, to avoid all these common mistakes and to achieve effective monitoring standards, a standard research proposal form is germane. This is a proposal, a research proposal form. We have it in, it describes the fiscal year, the date, the description of research. We can see the research program, research project title, research objective, and the research activity leader, the name, the designation, the percentage time of each research. This item 5 is very important for us. You may think that how will you quantify the percentage sign of every research? But it's key for us, it will be an information for us to respond to ASTI. ASTI is an Agri-Science Technology Indicator that is led by FAO. It's an annual thing that we do within the department. So if you have this information that each scientist puts the allocated time for a project, you can get your percentage time from the amount of work put into the project. We can quantify it like that. And if we have this at hand, it will help us in filling up the ASTI form that we do annually. Then it goes on, item 6, collaborators involved, methodology, research projects, duration, all this, the expected output is there, expected outcome is there. And then we move on to the annual work plan. The annual work plan will give us the number of activities, the planned start date, and the end date. It is what you plan to do. It may not be feasible, but we would know the constraints that does not make it to be feasible. It's not that it's a fast rule, it must be like that, no. But if this thing doesn't work out, it's another report to know, okay, these are the constraints that we will work against another time. Then the financial aspect is also there, the item C, which shows the activities with the materials needed, and then the simulation plan is included. So, conclusion. Project planning, monitoring, and evaluation are systematic processes that involve critical thinking, analysis, analyzing, and using data and information to track projects progress and performance. So it is hereby recommended and recommended that acceptance and utilization of logical framework and the research proposal form subsequently for our project form. And then we should get all partners on board from start. That is the participatory development of logical framework with planning, monitoring, and evaluation staff. It is important. So that this will give us a detailed report, a detailed overview. Everybody is on the same page. There's no need that, oh, wow, what did they do the information for? No, we are all on the same page. So I want to appreciate my God and my Maker, my strength, the one that brought me to NIOT. He plans my life, he monitors my steps, and he will evaluate my end. We are all projects in the hand of God. So he monitors you. He plans your life. He monitors you, and he will evaluate you. That little corner you are. Let us remember we are projects in God's hand. So my appreciation goes to the HIDI CEO, Dr. Emel and Dr. Emel represented by Dr. and all members of the Internal Management Committee, the chairperson, Dr. Henry Patmos, my sister from another womb, the head of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, Dr. Hayo Amawo, my former NIOT planning team, headed by Dr. Adeoye, and the present NIOT planning team. I appreciate you all. The NIOT family, all researchers I work with, I say thank you. And I cannot forget my source, Industrial and Production Engineering. I have the head of department, former head of department, Dr. Ade Konawole is here. I appreciate you, sir. Thank you, sir. And I want to appreciate my family and my love, the crown of my life, the very Reverend Dr. Adodo Bijimi, and my children. Thank you.
Shall we appreciate the presenter, please? Engineer Oguchibi, a very detailed presentation. Congratulations. Please let's appreciate that. our presentation is very, very detailed, and I'm sure we have learned a lot of things. I'm not going to read all I have because I was privileged to see this before now, and we discussed that I have a whole page of the summary that I've done here, but I'm not going to read it word for word. But just as a sense of duty, the presenter has actually given us a run through what monitoring and flying monitor and evaluation is. She told us the significance of this activity, especially as it